All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment for Tuesday, October 3rd, 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Jesse Zone, Danny Mendel,
Sean Weldon,
Josh Young.
Gary Harris.
David Reese.
Maggie Wentler.
Bethany Sutherland.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next, to approve the meeting minutes for September 5th, 2023. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
None.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next item is an open forum. Is there anyone present tonight that would like to speak towards something not on the agenda this evening? Move on. Moving on to public hearings, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. All right. First item is variance application 026-23 to allow for the construction of guest quarters above an existing garage within the Shoreline Residential Zoning District of 943 square feet, where 700 square feet is the maximum. The subject property is located at 4232 Lower Roy Lake Road, PID 281-50647, applicant Brett Slepika. Owners Sean and Heidi Vandergloot. Is the applicant present? If you would like to come to the desk or podium, whichever you prefer, and state your name.
Brett Slepika.
Bethany, your staff report.
Thank you, Chair Young. I'd like to start off by just mentioning that there is a typo in that very first part. This is not a guest quarters above an existing garage. This is variance to construct said garage with the living quarters above. The property owner is seeking a variance from section 2146-2C guest cabin quarter standards for guest quarters of 943 square feet of livable space, where 700 square feet is the maximum. There are currently two small cabins. One is 660 square feet and one is 400 square feet on the property, and a garage of 624 square feet. The property owner is planning on removing the two small cabins and constructing a primary dwelling at a later date. The applicant is requesting to construct a 32 by 37 garage, that's 1,184 square feet, with living quarters above, meeting all setbacks and height requirements. A holding tank designed for seasonal and intermittent use has been submitted for the proposed project with a 1,500-gallon tank.
Okay, if you'd like to give us a brief overview of what your plans are.
Just building that, just, they want to have a living quarter with 2 bedrooms upstairs. 700 only gives you 1 bedroom, but you gotta think if the square footage of it, of that part is taken out a lot by the stairs going up there. And the way the structure of the, you know, the trusses are. So I'm just trying to get that, the extra bedroom in there. So they're having the 2 bedrooms upstairs instead of just 1 bedroom and just 1 living quarters for. So that's all. I'm just trying to get the extra 200 feet, 279 feet or something like that. It doesn't affect anything on the square building. It's all upstairs, just on the floor trusses. On the roof trusses, because it's attic trusses.
Okay. Before I have them fire off some questions, if you'd like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Hearing none, I'll close public comments. Does anybody have any questions?
One, I guess the only question I have, is there gonna be improvements to the road getting back there at all? Driveway?
The driveway, yeah, the trees got cleared up, yeah,
I just didn't know if emergency vehicle could ever get back there.
oh, yeah, and they cleared the whole, we cleared everything, so we can get the big trucks back there and everything else, so the road got.
Yeah, I went back there, so I was like, oh, it was kind of hard to find right away, but it was, you had stakes up, so I think it was pretty self-explanatory for what you're talking about. Gary, do you have any questions?
What's your time schedule on building the main house, tearing the other buildings down?
3 to 4 years.
Just curious.
And they're seasonal cabins, so they're just seasonal cabins. There's no heat in them.
Yeah, I was back in there today and once I felt like a pioneer going through the driveway getting in there.
Okay, any other questions? No? All right, this is a variance, so if I have anybody that wants to make a motion, we have to go through those 1 through 6 steps, which is in the packet.
And you can discuss each question and answer the questions among yourselves, and then make one final motion when you're done with that.
Okay,
So the questions can be answered prior to that motion.
okay. So number 1 is the variance in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and comprehensive plan. What does everybody think?
I felt yes would be the answer to that because of, it's gonna have a positive impact on the property back there. And with the neighboring houses as well. So I don't really have a problem with it.
No, it looks like it's gonna be a nice building from what the plans that you submitted is.
Agree.
Okay. Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the city Nisswa Code of Ordinances?
I felt again that the answer would be is. The utility of the property will be improved again. It's like in the first question, I thought. And will allow you a place to live while you're improving the property and would put in the main building in as well. So the answer would be is or yes.
I would agree.
Agree.
Is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner? I would say yes. There's 2 other structures present there. He's kind of give us the plans of what he was going to do. So. He's planning to tear down those existing buildings for his future home in the next 4 or 5 years. So my answer would be yes.
I agree.
Will the issue of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality?
Again, I think it will because it's positively going to impact the properties that are joining it as well. I thought so.
And the next question is, does the need for the variance involve more than economic considerations? I would say yes, pretty plainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Costs more money to add on more square footage. So.
Yep.
So, and the last is any other pertinent findings? I don't believe there are.
I didn't have anything.
So I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve variance application 026-23 to allow for the construction of guest quarters above an existing garage with the shoreline residential zoning district of 943 square feet versus the 700 square feet maximum. Subject property is located 4232 Lower Roy Lake Road. Applicant Bretta Slapika, is it?
Slepika.
Slapika, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Owner Sean and Heidi Vandersloot.
I'll second.
Obviously.
Yes, there should be conditions, our normal conditions that everything is according to the plans as submitted. Maybe a need for a stormwater management plan on this, being it's a new building in there. I'm not sure. I would put it in the condition list if. You know,
Do we have a discussion quick? David, what do you think?
what do you think on this? No,
Oh, it's gonna be footings and block. There's gonna be it'd be a regular footing in there, especially not a whole bunch, just in the backside of it, and there might be a little swell. So the water runs down the way it's running right now.
So using best management practices, recent property and construction and building, completion would be part of the balance.
So some silt fence,
Yeah,
sock.
yeah, silt fences and just keep
Okay.
the erosion out of the neighboring joint and, properties and out of the lake, so.
Yep.
Yeah. So that would be the other condition. We have a survey on this one, right? Yes, okay.
Danny, you seconded it?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Second item is variance application 027-23 to allow for a 1,164 square foot guest cabin where 700 square feet is the maximum within the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. Subject property is located at 24833 Hazelwood Drive, PAD 281-40630. Applicant Vaughn Larson, owner Christopher and Risa Larson.
Hello,
State your name.
Vaughn Larson.
Okay. Bethany, your staff report.
The property owner is seeking a variance from section 20-1462C guest cabin quarter standards for guest quarters exceeding a livable space of 700 square feet. There are currently 3 dwellings on this property. The guest quarter that they are looking to make into, or the building that they are looking to make into their guest quarter is actually an existing dwelling right now. It exceeds the 700 square feet. The property owner is planning on removing the 2 cabins near Nisswa Lake and constructing a primary dwelling per the submitted plans. The applicant is requesting to leave the home closest to Hazelwood Drive as their guest cottage. According to assessor records, this dwelling consists of 1,768 square feet, including the basement. That includes a basement space. I'm not quite sure what livable areas there are there, but I've included a drawing in your packet of what is existing, as well as photographs that were provided from the Crow Wing County assessors.
Okay. Vaughn, you want to give us a brief overview of the project?
Yeah, the property owners, are they online?
They are online. I'm working to try to get them unmuted.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And everybody can hear them fine?
Yes.
Okay, property owners go on the property for a little while. They want to build their retirement home on the property, but they don't want to tear down a perfectly good house that's there. They'd like to keep that for when their family comes to visit. All makes good sense to me. We have designed the house to fit. We're meeting all the impervious and all the other side yard setback restrictions. So the last step for us is to get a variance for the size of the guest house.
Okay, if you would like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Questions? I did not, when I went out there today, I did not see any stakes in the ground to see exactly where this was gonna be.
Yeah, I didn't, it's just the existing house. So
Okay.
I didn't think there was a need to stake it. I'm sorry. Did
Okay.
you want stakes for the new house?
Yeah, that's what I was, just so I. Go ahead.
The submitted plan for the house would just require a standard land use permit as long as he was able to obtain a variance for this to be their guest cottage. So that's why that information wasn't included, and that's why we didn't require them to stake it at this time.
Okay,
So no special provisions are being asked for the actual construction of the main dwelling. The only special consideration here is for the variance in regards to the dwelling that's already there to become a guest cottage.
okay.
You're gonna be making any changes to the existing house?
Not
You know,
right away.
just spruce it up some, you know?
Chris,
was
would you like
curious.
to comment on that?
Yeah, we will be redoing the shingles and the siding to align with the new home that's built in place of the new cabin or the new cottage built.
Perfect.
It
Thank
will
you.
look cohesive.
What, go ahead. Will there be any changes to any of the driveways, new driveways, any impervious coverage that you would anticipate?
We do have the, on the survey there, if we scroll down a little bit, we do have the new footprint laid out there and the impervious calculations on there. We are right at 25% with some pervious paver driveway.
Okay.
There is an existing driveway that runs past the existing house to get to the cabin.
Yep, I saw that.
That's all gonna be paved. Eventually.
The front part by from the street, we would intend to do with pervious pavers
Okay,
to meet the 25%
yeah, right,
impervious. Yep.
okay.
What's the timing of the project?
Chris?
Well, I think we have to, once we get approval of the variance, then we can proceed with getting bids. And it's likely sometime next summer of 2024. We've got to remove those existing cabins and get that taken care of.
Okay.
I thought I saw the well cap when I was walking by there. It's in the center there somewhere, isn't it?
Kind of right in the middle on the north.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, any other questions? And we can start walking through this again.
No question.
Okay. Questions? Is the variance in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and comprehensive plan?
Yeah.
I would say yes. It's gonna be an improvement to the property by taking out the older cabins and adding a nice home on the lakefront there. So, that's a yes.
I agree.
Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the city of Nisswa Code of Ordinances?
I would say yes.
I agree, because assuming that the new home gets built. You know, so. Yes.
3 is a need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. I would say yes, there's already a solidly built home that they want to keep, so I think what they're asking for is a reasonable request.
Great.
Agree.
4, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Again, I would affirm with yes. They said they're going to improve the current structure, and the 2 older cabins that I'm assuming are fairly old, they look to be fairly old, will be removed and a new house built.
Agree.
Great.
And 5, does the need for the variance involve more than economic considerations?
Does. Just the cost going into upgrading that home to keep it there, I think is worthwhile, so.
And the owners did note here that their grandson requires a wheelchair, so they wanted something more accessible. So my answer would be yes.
Yeah.
Great.
It-
All right,
it-
go ahead.
It's hard to separate the new home from the variance application tonight, but.
Right.
So. Pardon us if we stumble a little
Yeah.
bit here, but everything is kind of. You know, lending to the construction of the new home, so.
All right, any other pertinent findings? Don't believe so. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of variance application 02723 to allow for 1,164 square foot guest cabin where 700 square feet is the maximum. Within the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. The subject property is located at 24,833 Hazelwood Drive. Applicant is Vaughn Larson, owner, and Christopher and Risa Larson, owners. Again, according to the staff report, as presented in the packet, and with the conditions, 3 conditions as listed in the staff report, with no additional ones at this point.
A discussion for David regarding the protection of the shoreline there. Do we had the condition?
There's a stormwater
Stormwater
management plan
management.
required.
Okay, so that's covered then.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, do I have a second?
Second. Sorry, Sean.
Sean gets it.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Next item is variance application 028-23 to allow for the construction of a 2,000 square foot accessory structure where the cumulative allowable accessory structure square footage is exceeded by 1,228 square feet within the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. The subject property is located at 22990 State Highway 371, PID 282-60673 and 282-30512. Applicant owner Scott Sadusky. Podium or desk, state your name and address.
Scott Sadusky, 21802 Tall Timbers Trail.
Bethany, your staff report.
Thank you. The property owner is requesting a variance from section 2093 accessory structure size setback and permit requirements for exceeding the cumulative square footage, maximum of 2,500 square feet of accessory structures per parcel. There is an existing 36 by 48 detached accessory structure on the parcel. The property owner would be allowed, however, without variance, to attach up to 2,079 square feet of attached storage and garage space to the main primary dwelling. The proposed accessory structure would be heated but not served by pressurized water. The proposed structure meets setback and height requirements.
If you'd like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Being none, I'll close public comments. Questions?
When do you plan to build it?
When?
When?
Hopefully this fall, if I can line up the contractor.
Bless you.
If you could just give a brief overview of, why you think it's necessary for a variance application, kind of your plans for the project.
Well, I could build, I think, 2,079 square foot attached to the structure, but my problem with that is I would have to build it on the opposite side towards a residential neighbor. I didn't want to encumber and change that area for them. And also it's mirroring my residential neighbor, the structures that he has. And I thought if I could build behind the existing structure, you wouldn't even see it from the road and kind of just tuck it away where no one has to see my trailers or fish houses or anything else out there. My only issue is where the and I understand I got to have a 30-foot setback from the property line to the north, but my septic is close to that area, so I'm trying to cheat that as close to the northern property as I can.
So are you looking for a variance other than, from the 30-foot setback?
If I can, yes. And also because I'm over the detached accessory structure.
To what amount? What are you looking for a setback if it's other than the 30?
Well, I don't know if anybody went out to the property, but
I was there today.
even if I don't know if I want to go as far back as the existing building, but maybe 15 feet rather than the 30 from the northern property line.
Unfortunately, this was not noticed. And so I
Yeah.
don't think this is something that we can grant tonight.
Would you be interested in tabling and coming back with those two items at the same time?
Is that a month?
That's a month.
Month.
That would throw a jam into my
I'm gonna,
timetable.
well, you think.
But you know what? Yeah, I would.
Well, Bethany, I mean, is there any reason why we couldn't add that as a one-off exception to be able to include that modification of?
Without Tom Pearson's recommendation on that, I wouldn't feel comfortable going ahead with that.
Neighbors have been noticed for this, not the setback.
Got it.
Correct,
And we've received no negative feedback from either properties or neighbors?
correct.
You know, I have another question. I was out there today and I think what you're planning on doing, that's pole structure, is that correct, or?
I won't do a pole
Oh,
structure,
okay.
no.
But another building. I
Yeah.
think it's a unique piece of property, you know.
It
that-
is.
It's heavily wooded and brushy, you know, it backs up to the.
That was the other
Well,
thing
then the
too, is I
daylight.
wanted to keep the integrity of the
Yeah.
property with the woods the way it is. I didn't want to get closer to
I
that.
don't have a problem with what you're doing or proposing. I did notice in the application though, that when you applied for it, I believe that we require a certificate of survey to do something like this, and I didn't see one in the packet that I've got. Is that correct or not?
Correct. That requirement was waived.
Oh, it was waived.
It
Okay.
was.
Yeah, I saw that in part of the ordinance. It could be waived, so.
Yep.
Okay. That was my one question. And impervious coverage, has that been looked at? I assume that it's not a problem because that's a very large lot.
I don't.
The land,
The impervious coverage is
8%.
3.7%. With the proposed new structure, it would be 5.2%.
Yeah, okay. Then the only other item that I had as a question would be a stormwater management plan again, which is for a condition. I don't know if that's been talked about with staff and you people are owners or not.
Well, generally speaking, when you build a structure, you're not allowed to direct any of the stormwater to neighboring
Right,
or anything, regardless if you're required to have a stormwater management plan or not. With an impervious threshold of 5.2%, that's not something that I feel that would need to be required.
that's fine.
You know, if he was building this closer to the natural environment lake hole in the day, then I'd be a little bit more concerned, but it's far away from that.
Yeah, and the way I got the roof pitched, it's not going to be going to the neighboring properties. It'll stay
Okay.
on mine.
Okay.
I got a lot of land there. I
Yeah.
can run for a while before it's going to hit anything.
My questions have been addressed.
Well, Scott, what do you think you want to do? Do you think it's
Well,
important to?
I think it is worth it for me to wait another month, table building it this year, assuming that the ground might be froze at that time frame, to get that extra length away from my septic system. I could pause with bringing trailers back in there and backing it in. That could be a potential issue that I would like to.
Okay.
I'll have patience for it to go for another month and.
Before we do that,
I wasn't aware that I was under the assumption I couldn't even ask for that. So, not that it's Bethany's fault. She told me the rules and I didn't know that we could vary off setbacks.
okay. Just so you're not spinning your wheels, what are your initial thoughts about a setback? I don't know, what do you think you're requesting feet wise from the?
Well, what I want to do is try to cheat the new garage behind the old garage as much as I can. So when you're looking from the highway or the backyard, it looks a little bit more congruent than having one sticking out.
Okay,
I don't know how they got permission before to build that close to the property line. But ordinances change and all that stuff too. So if I could tuck it more back behind it, I don't think I would go as far back as the existing garage is now, but if I could get, let's say, to 15 feet from the north property, the commercial property that's north of me, that would be ideal.
okay.
Would that require, as part of that process, Bethany, would that require the commercial property, the owner to the north to either agree to the variance on the setback or?
You wouldn't need
Or
them
not
to
agree.
agree.
Yeah,
We would just need to notice that they are also
They'd-
seeking a side yard setback.
They'd be
Mhm.
noticed, so, okay.
And you're saying the other garage is closer, you think, than 15?
Oh, I don't know if
is.
it probably is around 10.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's right.
So you can come up with a specific number that you think you're gonna need, and you can talk to Bethany about that.
Okay.
It'll be re-noticed.
So then table this variance until the next, or do you want to do one now and then one later? I guess, Scotty, it's your preference, really.
I'd rather just table it so that I wouldn't have to pay another $500.
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, it's,
But Maggie, I mean, my question then would be if knowing that Scott's gonna want additional time, if that is the stance you have. Looking at the list of neighbors, we have Timberwood Church to the north, then you have two properties to the south. The other two, I believe, are across the highway. Really not even.
There's 8 that we mailed it to that will have to get notified. Yeah,
But to get a setback variance, it has to be noticed.
Correct.
So, okay, I don't think you've got too much choice here. So.
so the question lies,
The action deadline is 10/31. He would just have to sign a,
60-day waiver
yeah.
because we're beyond 60 days by
Yep.
the time the
That's
next
not a
meeting
Yep.
comes, which is not another problem. The other question lies that he's adding a variance, which requires us to post another notice, which is technically another application. So there would be another fee for this next variance.
I would like to propose to this commission that perhaps we waive this, I think in good faith. It was unaware of this situation.
And you can do that.
Otherwise, it would have been included 2 for 1.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's fair.
I would entertain a motion to table and waive the fee.
So move.
Have a second,
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
by the way, the Twins won.
Yeah.
that's excellent news.
See you,
Thank you, everybody.
Sean, is that you?
see you next month.
Is this, was that a series game? Is it a one-off game or is it a?
No, it's 3 games. 3
That's
games.
3?
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Go Twins.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, moving on to new business. Review and remove revised condition 3 from CUP 024-23.
Thank you very much. With the CUP that was issued for the transient merchant park permit on last month's planning commission meeting, consulted with our city attorney, it was determined that condition number 3 for the approved transient merchant park permit is not valid. Private citizens and business owners cannot place signs in the road right of way and in no way can be held responsible for the enforcement of public parking. Condition number 3 will need to be removed and or revised. Included in your packet are the minutes from last month's meeting. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I don't have any questions, but I've seen almost everything corresponding to this, especially when I was abroad. Good to know this, learning curves, of course, but it's unfortunate to see our new bike trail committee, which I'm liaison on, have that much traffic be parked on it. It's hydro seed anyway. So it's just being compressed. It's gonna alter its growth in the spring through the winter, so. Are there any suggestions for a revision for condition number 3?
Well, so when I was driving by there today, I noticed that there is some lays and some ribbon in the ground.
Mhm.
So
Right on the edge of the bituminous.
Yep, so this conversation was brought up at the city council meeting last month as well. And so it was determined at that point just to try to preserve that little bit in that ground until a more broad conversation on parking. If the next item on our new business, it'll explain a little bit more on that. And in the meantime, we wanted to protect that small boulevard area in between the road and the trail. And so the city council did instruct city staff to put those
Okay,
those
that
guardrails.
was city installed, that
Correct.
flagging.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Going forward, if we have something like that with an event and it's not a city event, we as a planning commission cannot direct city staff to place those parking barriers up. That has to be a motion from the city council. Is that
That
correct?
would need to be city council, correct?
Okay,
Mhm.
and we.
You could recommend it. And then we could have that discussion with the city council, but the city council would need to weigh in on
But we
that.
can't have as part of the motion directing the owners to control the public parking.
That
That's
is-
basically what this is.
Right, and so basically, we were a little bit out of our regulatory authority in that sense, and so we're not able to,
Or the CUP? Cause
correct.
I had afterthought of it. I mean, take the A&W plastic car
Mhm.
every summer. Why would that not then come to planning and zoning? It kind of was like a catch-22 thing for me in regards to that. So
They actually use city streets and they're required to get a city event permit. And so when you use city streets for your event,
Yeah.
then you are required to get that permit and that goes through the city council. So for parades, for JC's Run for the Lakes, for all of those activities that take place on our city streets and in the road right of ways, a city permit is required. For Copper Creek, for instance, when they do the hay rides, they have to have a permit through the city to be able to use city streets.
Right.
Now, the event itself and the transient merchant park permit is for events happening on his property. And what we can't do is condition something that requires him to be responsible or any business owner to control and regulate parking in the road right of way. And so that's why that was very invalid and we need to amend it. At the very least, we just need to strike it. If there's revisions that you'd like to add to that CUP and that transient merchant park permit CUP. I do know as far as parking, it's been on his website detailing that there is parking at the church. He has provided parking, which he's not required to necessarily provide that parking per our rules right now. But parking was provided with the use of the church parking lot.
were the lathes, were they put in over this weekend or were they installed after the weekend was over, after the events were over? I'm curious if it worked.
No,
It was
right after
ins-
the conclusion of the city council meeting,
Mhm.
because I believe this is fall days.
There's 6
Uh,
weekends
6
or
weeks,
so,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and
so yes,
Yeah, it was after the conclusion of the city council meeting.
okay, so it was up this weekend.
it was up this weekend and the weekend before.
Okay, and was it successful?
I'm not quite sure. I would think that some pictures have shown a lot of parking in the area. I do know that it was successful along the Gull Lake Trail area.
It wasn't. at first.
Yes,
It wasn't
it
at
was
first, okay.
successful along the trail.
Okay. Yeah, and so there was the laugh and the ribbon there. So that's a much broader discussion, which we're going to get into next as well. So
Well, it
the
seems,
purpose of this is that we just need to amend the CUP, so it is a legal CUP.
okay, well, it seems like it's been taken care of, so I'll entertain a motion to strike.
So moved.
Do I have a
Second
second?
it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Danny,
We'll raise our hand from now on.
Okay.
review section 20-249 parking and loading.
Okay. So with the realization and the parking, it sparked a much broader conversation. And so we looked into our ordinance as to what our ordinance does have in regards to parking. In section 20-249 B2 and 3, our ordinance says that in all residential zoning districts, parking on publicly owned or controlled land is prohibited. It also says in commercial zoning districts, off-street parking shall be provided. On-street parking is not allowed under any circumstance. So basically what this says is that in our land use ordinance, all street parking in Nisswa is illegal, which we don't have the authority in our land use ordinance to have traffic law and parking regulations, nor do we have the authority to enforce that. So that, in my understanding, that was put into our ordinance in 2018, the reasons for which I can't speak to. But this does need to be removed. And so at the city council meeting, this was discussed. And so I will be preparing ordinance changes for next month, November's meeting, to amend this ordinance. But I wanted to catch you all up onto what we're doing and what this means. Also, Chief Taylor is here tonight to answer any questions about the regulation of parking and why it needs to be removed from the land use ordinance.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bethany asked me to support her request to remove that from the land use ordinance, and I agree that that would be the most appropriate thing to do. It's not a land use issue, it's a safety issue, so probably should be dealt with as such. But if you have any questions on parking, I would try to answer them the best I can.
So you're saying it's illegal when cars are parked along?
On all districts in OSR and SLR. So when you have a graduation party and people are parking along the side, that's illegal. When the farmers market's going on and people are parking along the side of the road, our ordinance here says that it's prohibited. If you have a garage sale, it's prohibited. And
People
so,
attend a funeral in downtown Nisswa.
yes, so.
They're breaking the law.
And-
It's a good catch, similar
Yeah.
to us determining, I think it was when Don Jacobson was still here, that I think it was Chris that actually found it. We don't have anything permitting entrepreneur come in and open a brothel technically.
Mhm.
And remember that catch? Like,
Mhm.
interesting. Downside is we have no parking in Nisswa. And that's a generally known thing. No assumptions have to be made regardless of where Copper Creek is at. And this is obviously a very popular event. So I think that's wise to strike this. And going forward, it's councils with department heads and such as Bethany to try to do our best to secure additional properties to be able to turn it into concrete or asphalt to be able to turn into a parking lot. Fortunately, we're landlocked. Don't really have much options, but things pop up at times.
Parking has been added to the city council agenda for this month, and so this will be something that will be discussed as to what we can do. But it will need the city council's direction, basically. My understanding, Chief Taylor has explained to me that unless we post these, there's no ability to enforce it, and so I'll let him speak to that.
Yes, I mean, that's why this hasn't been enforced in the past. First of all, I didn't actually know it existed. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to ticket or tow vehicles if the owner of the vehicle has no way of knowing that they're not allowed to park there. It doesn't make any sense. So if the council does need to give direction, and if their direction is that they want to designate streets, some streets or residential streets as no parking, then they would have to have signs put up. So citizens and residents would know that. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I don't think that is the answer, but something obviously needs to be done. There's a lot of events. There's a lot of people that come to town, and the town is really only designed for 1,000 people. And we have, sometimes 15, 20,000 people in town, and people we either have to invest in some areas to park, or people are gonna have to be tolerant and recognize that you have to be patient, and that it might take you a little longer to get from point A to point B, and you gotta be more safe while doing it. But like I said, the council's gonna have to offer some
When
direction.
it comes to the event like the Brainerd JC's ice fishing extravaganza, there is no parking signs that are placed alongside Tall Timbers Road, Highway 371, actually even Hole in the Day Bay Drive.
Well,
Do they obtain that through their CUP?
There's no CUP. So the JC's ice fishing tournament actually need permits through the sheriff's department, the surface water ordinance. So the sheriff's department would regulate all events on Gull
Okay.
Lake. As far as State Highway 371, that would be the state patrol. I know that they help with that. And then they do all that. I don't believe they obtain any permits at all through the city of Nisswa for that event.
Yeah, and I think the parking is it has gotten to be where it's all mostly off-site. I think they park most of their vehicles at VIR
Right.
and bus people up.
Right.
But I think people do still allow parking on private property, you know, you can clean off your lot and let cars park, but
Yeah.
not on the road.
I'm only referencing the actual staked signs that are placed out on private roads that are city streets technically, such as Hole and Day Bay Drive. Tall Timbers is a private road. Just for reference, because that is an event held by an outside organization or, you know, for-profit organization, maybe that type of verbiage could be in unison as we go forward. Different or a longer discussion we can have later, but might be a good starting point as to what's permissible on that side.
An example of this, would this be last July or last June? My cancer foundation, we sponsored the car show down at the American Legion. 100% of the attendees that come, the spectators were parked on the road. Is that same thing? Those all were illegal parking actually, according.
Theoretically, yes, though I don't know how in a land use and land development ordinance that we can have such provisions. It doesn't make a lot of logical sense. So I will be proposing to strike those two items from that, but we didn't have enough time to notice. And so I just wanted to let you know that all of this was happening and that we'll be coming with
Obviously, I support it.
new language. Yes.
So Chief Taylor, you think it's appropriate to just go case by case basis? So we have the Copper Creek thing, and the only thing I am wary about is that I don't know if Copper Creek should be given a different standard. If that's going to be the same standard, they shouldn't have to go above and beyond if nobody else is required to. I don't think that's real fair. So how can we go case by case and do it, you know, in a fair manner where everybody has the same rules that they have to go by?
Well, I guess as it is now, in my opinion, first of all, we have not taken any complaints as far as safety issues with Copper Creek's events. Not saying they don't exist, I'm saying they haven't come to our office yet. But if they were, we'd have to go down there and make an evaluation of if it is actually an unsafe situation. And the officers have gone down there and done a little bit of a cursory examination, and they feel that it's being handled safely. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, people don't have to use a little common sense. You can't drive 30 miles an hour through there because it's going to be tighter. But as far as concerns of emergency vehicles being able to get through, the fire chief is aware of the situation. He's evaluated. He said there's no issue with their fire trucks coming through there. No officers that have been working have said there was any issues of safety they were concerned about. It's kind of an issue of inconvenience, I think, right now. And I guess given our roads or the way our roads are designed, it's small, as I've said, you know, not really made for large amount of traffic. It was as safe as you would expect that it could be. And I guess that's where the council needs to make a decision. You know, it's going to have a pretty big impact on the community, whatever, you know, I mean, we have a lot of events, towns built for these events, and we've tolerated parking issues for, you know, ever since I've been here. And if the council wants to get a little more strict, some residents, I understand, want to make it a little stricter, cleaner on the roads, then we have to figure out how we're going to do that. But as it is now, you know, I would say with Copper Creek, it seems to be working fine, as well as it can.
I think the concern again was the trail, you know.
Right.
I know when I drove through there was people parked right on that. I've got pictures of it.
Yeah.
Where they were parked right on the grass, the new sod. So
There's lots of confusion, I think, in what's expected of people. I would, if I was gonna run things, I would prefer they park on the other side of the road, but you know, something has to be addressed and worked through.
So our understanding is the city council is going to come with some specific suggestions that we will have to review. Is that?
I don't believe so. This will just be amended, and you will see this on the November agenda, and then you will need to recommend or deny the ordinance amendment.
So nothing else, just
This is
Just
like
this,
discussion
yeah.
tonight.
Yep, and I just
Okay.
thought it was a great discussion moving forward, because I know this is it was in the paper, so I figured it would be a good thing to discuss.
okay.
Mhm.
Any other discussion?
No.
We don't need a motion for it because,
No,
okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Planning Commission meeting date change.
Yes, so both ISD 182 and ISD 186 are holding special elections on Tuesday, November 7th. And that prohibits public meetings between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m. So I would like to propose that we change the Planning Commission meeting from that Monday to November, or from that Tuesday to Monday, November 6th, 2023. Right now, Gary, you have said that you are available. Josh, you have said you are available, but I would need at least one more. Are you both available?
I should be available.
Okay,
I'm coming back from Texas. but-
That's rifle opener weekend, so. If I'm here, that means I have meat in my freezer.
You should be done by 8 a.m. on
I
Saturday.
should be, but. You know how things go, unless I'm driving the ditch and finding something that's been there. Just kidding. I'll try to be here.
okay. We will need a motion on that.
Okay.
To approve that date change.
I'll move that the November Planning Commission meeting be changed from Tuesday to Monday, which would be from, I'm sorry, what was the date?
November 6th. 6th.
6th.
To the 6th rather than the 7th.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Variance verification for 4600 Lower Roy Lake Road.
Thank you. This item is in front of you tonight at the recommendation of the city attorney. This item is on the agenda to put into record the verification of the variance that was granted in 1988 for a 58-foot setback to the OHW where 75 feet is required. As you may know, Councilman Joe Hall's residence was lost to fire this last winter, and he is in the process of rebuilding. Due to the nature of the permit request to rebuild and his position with the city, our city attorney advised that the proposed construction, along with the variance from 1988, be entered into record. Please note that the following land use permit request, the proposed structure meets the approved 58 OHW setback that was granted in 1988. Impervious is well below the allowable amount. The property owner is working to consolidate parcels as required by statute, and all other setbacks and height requirements are met. No motion or no further action is needed.
Okay.
But if you do have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No questions.
So does this always work this way? So if someone gets a variance? That,
So variances stay with the property.
okay, they do.
Yep. And this one just happened to be worded in such a way, you've got a copy of it in front of you, that it was very much a blank. The OHW setback is 58. It doesn't say for,
Good to know.
so
Oh.
I ran that by Tom Pearson and so he recommended that we put it into record in tonight's meeting.
The halls won't be required to come in if they're going to change the structure size, or they will, or how does that work?
They just need to meet all setbacks, and their approved setback for that parcel is 58 feet from OHW. And all the rest of if they decide to change anything or request anything that doesn't meet any other standard or setback, then they would require a variance, but
No questions for me. Okay. Old business, none, city planners report.
there were 12 permits approved. There's been actually quite a lot more in the last 5 days or so. But you'll see that on next month's city planner report. If you have any questions about anything else other than that, it's a pretty busy time right now. For planning and zoning, people are looking to get things in the ground before it freezes, because that is right around the corner. So.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Nothing. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Josh wasn't waiting for a second.